you doing, everybody? And welcome to Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. I'm your host, Trage. It's Monday. We're back. Good. I want to say a good weekend, depending on what you watched and what was going on. But it was an okay weekend for some people out there. So I'm with Rogan today. Austin's gone. I get Rogan back finally, and Austin's gone. I can't balance this thing. I got to start getting my schedules put together. But Rogan, how are we doing on this Monday? A fantastic Monday.
We're doing good, Trades. We're doing all right. You know, like you said, it was a tough weekend for some sports, some Badger sports, but hockey team did their job this weekend. But that basketball team, I don't know what's going on down there. Like you were saying, Humke today is just too. He texted us. He couldn't do it. He mentally was not there today. He said this is too hard for him to do today. So hopefully we get him back tomorrow.
I couldn't believe after the Packers lost, he came back. I mean, he was emotionally distraught after those losses there, and now he's coming. I mean, I get it. This is disaster all at once right now in Madison. So we're gonna get into that today. We got a lot to get into. How was the weekend? What did we do over the weekend there?
You know, Trage, like you're saying, a lot of games in town this weekend. So we had hockey games like that and stuff. We were watching hockey games. And like you said, the hockey team did good this weekend. Hockey team did real well. And now we got the Super Bowl this weekend too. That was great. So it was a very busy weekend down here in Madison and fixed with a wide range of emotions. That's all I'll say.
I can only imagine what Madison is like right now. I imagine it as that picture with Bucky holding the sign saying, "I am sad," not knowing what to do. And we're going to get into it, but it's dicey. It's dicey right now with Wisconsin men's basketball. So let's get into a good note. Let's get into the good note to start it out here. And like you had mentioned, like I mentioned, Wisconsin men's and women's hockey picked up big wins over the weekend there. That was great to see. I suck at these names. So the women's hockey beat that. You said it there. It's that Minnesota team with the Beaver. What are they? It's the
Bemidji
State. There we go. And it was some slaughtering that the women's team did. 10-0 there in the first one on Friday night. And then on Saturday, 7-0. They took both 17-0. They took that little series sweep there over Bemidji State. And I mean, holy cats. You know what? I got to say this. Hockey irritates me for the simple fact of not the sport, but why I have to get Big Ten Plus to be able to watch any hockey game I want to watch. I mean, that's just ridiculous. And not only do I have to pay, I couldn't even pay $7.99 for just the team pass. I just wanted to watch Wisconsin. So I got the team pass. Then I went to go watch, we're going to talk about it here in a second, but the men's game, they were playing Notre Dame. I was like, I'll go watch that. Couldn't get onto it. It said it's not available with your subscription. I was like, what the heck? It lets me watch the replays, but it won't let me watch the up-to-date or the live games. So then I had to go get, I think it's like $14, $15 or something like that. Or it might be more than that. I don't even remember. I just spend money sometimes on sports and I don't even remember. But I mean, I had to buy the bigger package and then I was able to watch it. And it's like, but Big Ten Plus, I can only use that to watch these games, like the hockey games and stuff like that. Big Ten Plus, usually, unless if it's a scrimmage game, doesn't have any of the basketball. So it's like Peacock for me again. I got Peacock Premium just to watch one game, and now I got this to watch the Badgers hockey team play a couple games yet, and then it's going to be over with. So, I mean, I have always been baffled by that.
So, Trades, they can't make it easy. They can't make it easy for us.
They want you to spend money. They need us to spend money. That's what they need. So you mentioned you watched a little bit of the hockey over the weekend there. How was this game? What is the buzz right now with the women's hockey team? Because right now, I just want to find their record, but I know it's impressive. 26-4 on this season right now. They are just 13 in a row. They've won 13 in a row now. It's impressive to watch. What are you seeing right now out of this women's hockey team? What's the buzz like in Madison?
It's weird, Trade, especially with the women's hockey team down here. It's kind of like I compare it to that run the Warriors had or the run where the Patriots had, where it's like the season doesn't start till like the tournament comes. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So, I mean, they're playing so well right now, but like you hate to say it and you hate to take it for granted, but that's the expectation down here, especially for this women's program with how great they have been. So, yes, people are excited, but I don't think they're as excited as like a team that's been struggling would be, and now to have a good season. But Yeah, they got a really good squad this year, and I think people are just ready to get to the tournament and see what this team can do again, because that's kind of the expectation around here, and that's when the real fun starts, especially for the women's program. But like you said, 13 straight now, and that was after mid-season. I was kind of talking to a couple of the players, and they kind of went through a little bit of a lull there. They lost four out of 5 games, which for the women's program is almost unheard of in the last 10 years for them to lose 4 to 5. And, they kind of just said that obviously they had some injuries going on. The beginning of the year, they played some really, really bad teams. So I think they were saying they kind of just fell into some bad habits, got away with just kind of going out there and beating up on these really bad teams and started playing some better opponents. But now, like you said, I think they figured it out. They got healthy again, and this team's rolling right now, 13 straight. So it's gonna be a fun next couple months for the women's team for sure.
And they don't get talked about a lot. They don't get, volleyball finally got the respect on its name there a little bit. Everybody started talking about the volleyball, but you look at these like women's hockey, nobody really talks about it that much. And I think that's a big kicker, because this is impressive. This is impressive across the board. And like you said, year after year after year, you watch them. It's like people just kind of expect it. They don't have to pay attention. It's like, oh, yep, tournament's here. Badgers are in. They're at the top. That's how it's going to go. I mean, so all the way around impressive, but they got 2 tough opponents coming up yet on the docket. This next Friday and Saturday, they'll be taking on Minnesota. That'll be I believe they play in the Kohl Center, don't they? Or is that one in that other field house?
I believe that one is at the Kohl. No, it's in the Laban Arena. I wish they would move that to the Kohl Center. That's irritating.
I don't know why they don't. I feel like you could pack the Kohl Center just as easy as Laban. So, I mean, they got Minnesota coming up yet, and then Ohio State, who, what you were talking about there, those 4 losses they had, 2 of them came to Ohio State, and that was at Ohio State. So now Ohio State's coming to town. This is an impressive Badger team on the home ice. They're 13-1 at home. They don't lose too often at the Laban Arena. So this should be a good stretch here to end it, and then they will get into the playoffs here coming up. That'll start on March 1st, I believe. The WCHA playoffs first round will begin on March 1st.
Do you know how that works? Because, I'm looking at the schedule right now, and I see there's one. So there looks like there's a WCHA, playoff thing, and then after that there's an NCAA tournament thing. So, are those, 2 separate? Or how does that work? Do the top 4 teams from those get to go to the NC? I just don't.
Is the Big Ten split into conferences?
Let me look that up.
Is the conference as a whole called the WCHA?
I'm not sure.
Sorry, people. We're learning. We're learning this. We're getting into the hockey here. We're trying to get into it. We're just looking to see what we got.
Because I was looking at that and I was confused because I'm like, it says it's like a playoff and there's a final. But then
almost like the slot that you would be in, like a Big Ten tournament kind of thing before the NCAA tournament.
So it stands for Western Collegiate Hockey Association. I wonder if it's like a regional one, maybe.
I could see that.
Maybe there's 4 regions, and the winner from each region gets to go to that could be it.
I could see that. Then they get to go into the regional round, and then the Frozen Four there to end it. Because you only have 4 at the end, so they got to narrow it down. It's the beginning of the tournament. That's what we'll chalk it up to be. It's the beginning of the tournament. So that starts on March 1st. So we're getting closer and closer to some playoff hockey here. And that's flipping off of that to the men's. They took care of business over this last weekend. They had big wins over Notre Dame, 4-2 on Friday night, and then they won 3-2 on Saturday. Some impressive games there. That was at the Kohl Center for those 2 matchups. I mean, this men's team, they had that little tough stretch there with number 9 Minnesota when they went over there and they came to the Kohl Center and actually beat Wisconsin. Other than that, this men's team has been playing well as of late. They're sitting at 22-6 on the season. Nothing too shabby in that aspect. I mean, looking at, like we were talking about with the women's there, what's the buzz with this men's team right now? I mean, playing pretty well, but got a tough little stretch of games left here in conference play before they get in.
Yeah, so it's kind of weird. The men's is kind of completely opposite. The women's team has been so good for so long that people have kind of they kind of, I don't know, they don't get as excited for the women's team until that playoff start just because of how good they've been. But this men's team has really struggled the last probably 10 years, and they've done really well this year. And people like down here in Madison are ecstatic about where the men's program is at right now. And like you were saying, the two big wins against Notre Dame this weekend, but then they got Ohio State, Penn State, and Michigan State to finish out the season. So 6 really, really big games, and it'll be interesting to see how the tournament shapes out, because this is a good team and they beat a lot of top ranked teams. So I mean, I think they've got as good of a shot as anybody out there. And just a quick note, I figured out what the WCHA is.
There we go.
So for women's, not every Big Ten school has a women's hockey team. So that's just their conference, because it's made up of other schools that aren't in the Big Ten. So that it's just like a tournament, big conference tournament. That's what the WCHA, those playoffs are for. So
okay, so it's kind of like it is like the Big Ten tournament kind of dealio. Tournament before the big tournament starts.
Just different, just not all Big Ten teams.
Hey. Sorry, the dogs are barking back there. They got excited. They heard Rogan talking about the women's team, and they got excited for some reason. I don't know what's going on over here. I don't know what's going on.
Gotta respect them.
So with that, hockey doing well right now. Let's flip script here. Get to a couple of the struggling teams in Wisconsin. We know we don't want to. Let's get into the Bucks here. Let's just talk about the Bucks. Bucks coming off of they needed that win over the weekend there, playing the Charlotte Hornets. Got the win, 120-84. And the Bucks defensively, as of late, been playing aggressive, been looking good. Can't really complain anything on the defensive side. The offensive side is what we've been lacking. And I think in this one, they got a little bit more contribution out of some guys in this game here. I was just pulling up the stats there to see what we had. Crowder, not so hot, 5 points there. But Beasley went off for 21. Lillard was back. He had 26. Giannis only with 15 points. Now, he only played 24 minutes, but 15 points in those 24 minutes. They didn't need the starters a lot in this one, and that kind of led to that. But it's definitely interesting seeing Giannis only with 15 points. You don't see that too often there. Brook Lopez, 11 points. I would have left him out there as long as I could, because I think he needs all the minutes he can get right now to get right. Looking at the bench for the Bucks, Bobby Portis, 18 points in this one. I mean, you file down the line here, and they had contributions across the board because just about everybody played in this game. But Rogan, I mean, watching that game, Bucks Hornets, did you see some things you liked? Did you see some things you didn't like? I loved seeing Pat Bev in his first game with the Bucks get after some of these guys in the timeouts, just coaching them up on defense and stuff like that. You know, that's something that Giannis is obviously, I think Giannis is a great leader, but I think he's more of like a locker room guy. I don't think he's a very vocal on the court type of leader. That's why getting who was the guy we got a couple years ago to win the championship? PJ Tucker. That's why he was so impactful for his team, because he was so vocal on the court and held guys responsible. And I feel like that's what they've kind of been lacking this year. And, you know, when we traded for Pat Bev, I know we'll talk about it a little later, but when we kind of traded for him, I wasn't overly ecstatic, just because I thought we needed more. And I still think we might need to add another guy in like the buyout market or something like that. But watching him in this first game, I think he's going to end up being a perfect fit for this team, because he is exactly what we need, especially coming off that bench, just being a really vocal leader. He's really, really tenacious on defense. And like they were kind of talking about on ESPN and stuff like that, like if me or you are out in the court and we see the other person really dogging on defense and like playing hard, like we look at ourselves and we're like, I got to hold myself to that standard. I got to play that hard. Like I can't be the one on the court that's not playing defense when the guy next to me is working his tail off on D. So I think you saw that resonate with some of the guys. And like you were saying, this feels like the first game all season where going in, the Bucks should win this game, and they should win it easily. And that's exactly what they did. And I don't think they've done that at all this year. It seems like, especially with the Pistons and stuff, like they always let these teams hang around. And it was nice to see this team just go in there, get the job done, get some rest, and just put this game away early. So I'm excited for the Pat Bev ad there. And yeah, like you're saying, it's nice to see, especially, you know, ever since they got rid of Griffin, like
this defense is not going to be the defense we've had in the past. Like, it's just not going to be. But we don't need it to be that defense. We just need it to be a serviceable defense because our offense got that much better. And it's been exciting to see these last 10 games because they have been losing. And I know that I've seen some stuff that the guys say they're just kind of tired because obviously bringing in Doc Rivers there, they said they've been going a lot harder at practice just to try to get Doc Rivers like schemes and stuff. So the players have admitted they're a little tired, but they're like, they're going to catch their legs, they said. And so I think that's why you've seen the struggle on offense maybe a little bit. I think these guys are just a little wore out from having to get a new coach and everything like that. But this defense is getting better and it's exciting.
Yeah, I mean, like you're going off what you said, looking at the defensive numbers, I actually saw somebody did the defensive numbers on it, and opponents' points per game right now, the Bucks underneath the Griffin were ranked 25th in the league. They were at 120. Now they're down to 115 points per game given up. Opponents' points off of turnovers, they were at 15.1 there. They were 7th in the league. Now they're at 12.6. Still 7th in the league, but, I mean, that's impressive uptick there. And then also opponents' fast breaks, 12.2 under Doc. They were 15 under Adrian Griffin. That was ranked for 23rd in the league. Opponents' second chance points, they were at 14.4 underneath of Adrian Griffin. That was ranked good for 23rd in the league. Underneath of Doc, they've dropped it down to 11.8. So, I mean, small sample size with what Doc's doing, but you can see the defensive intensity has been turned up. And I agree, adding a guy like Pat Bev, I don't think the Bucks had a leader. I really don't. Like you said, I don't think Giannis, he might be a leader in the locker room. I don't believe he's a leader on the court. I think Giannis needs a guy who's going to wrangle him up. I really do. And I don't think Damian Lillard was that guy. I don't think Middleton's that guy. I really thought Jay Crowder coming in could develop into a guy, more of a vocal guy. And Jay Crowder's far from it. I don't think Jay Crowder has given the Bucks what I expected when they got him. I was excited when they got Jay Crowder. I thought he was going to be like a PJ Tucker kind of defensive intensity kind of guy, and he's never really been that guy for the Bucks team. If anything, he's kind of been a lackluster pick, and we traded a lot of second-round picks for Jay Crowder. I know you can only get so much in the draft, but at the same time, that's a lot to give up for a guy who's given you, I mean, I would just have to look at his points per game, but he had 5 in this game against the Hornets. He's got 7.5 points per game on the season there per game. So, I mean, nothing crazy impressive on the offensive end. And on the defensive end, I really don't know how I feel about Jay Crowder. I don't think he's brought the intensity that I expected.
No, for sure. I was, like you were saying, I was really excited when they got him too. And it'll be interesting to see how he does in the playoffs because I feel like he's always been more of a playoff guy. And last year in the playoffs, I don't even think he played 3 of the games.
No, Buno put him in.
And I did not understand that whatsoever. Nope. But it'll be interesting to see how he plays. And I'm just going to kind of throw this out there. I know you're talking about PJ Tucker. And if anyone isn't paying really close attention to the NBA, PJ Tucker is like insanely upset with what's going on with the Clippers right now and has publicly asked them to please cut him and release him so he can play somewhere else. And, I mean, I don't think it's a really far-fetched or fan idea whatsoever, but I would love to see the Bucks get PJ Tucker back on this team. I would love to see that. And I think PJ Tucker did not want to leave Milwaukee when he signed with the Heat. He said that publicly. He said they just did not offer him enough money. So he doesn't even have to play that many minutes. But, I mean, like you were saying, there was definitely a difference after they got PJ Tucker when they won the title that year. Like, he was such a great on-the-court leader, and I think he doesn't even have to play that much. I mean, I think you give him rotational minutes, but I feel like if you add him and Pat Bev, I feel very confident with where this team could go, especially – I mean, Tucker is older, but he is still an elite defender, especially against some of these bigger wings and stuff like that. So I would not be against trying to go get Tucker as well.
I think they can get him too because I believe his contract was $11 million, and the Bucks can have up to 12.2. I think they're around that 12.2 mark is what they can actually add on to the roster. I saw a couple other interesting names there in the buyout market. One of them was Gallinari. He was an interesting option there for a backup center position. And then I did see a couple other ones. I was trying to see who I saw. Biyombo, Bismack Biyombo. He's a center there from, I believe he was with Sacramento. Or no, he wasn't with Sacramento. Where was he? Memphis Grizzlies. He was with the Grizzlies. He'd be a decent backup center there. He was averaging about 5.2 points per game, 6 rebounds. He's not gonna give you a great scoring threat, but I think he can be good around the rim defensively, and I think he can give Brook Lopez some breaks there because right now the Bucks truthfully don't have a backup center. There's no anybody on this roster as a backup. I think they have 3 guys that are over 6'7" or 6'8" on the roster there. So they don't really have any height. So if we're going to go athletically, we don't even have the guys for that. So I don't know what style of basketball the Bucks could go right now, except for Brook Lopez is on the floor and we go big. That's where kind of the Bucks are at. And another guy I saw was Daniel House Jr. He's a forward there. He was traded from the Sixers to the Pistons, and he was waived by the Pistons. So Daniel House would be another interesting one. He's averaging about 15 minutes a game, 4 points, 44% shooting, and only hitting about 30% of his shots from deep. So he'd be an interesting add. But on the defensive end is where he picks up his efficiency. So, I mean, a lot of interesting guys the Bucks could look at in the buyout market right now. I think they have to. I really do think they have to. When you look at this Bucks roster, I think it's going to take a lot for Doc to trust some of these guys too, because that Green that the Bucks have right now, he's a good shooter. I mean, he's got to get the minutes, but he's a good shooter. He had I believe the other night there, he had a decent shooting night. Who was it against? A couple nights ago. AJ Green had a good shooting night. It was against the Timberwolves.
Yeah, Timberwolves.
Yep. He went 27 points in that one. He was 87% from downtown. I mean, he went off in that game. But you look at his minutes there before that, 13 minutes game before that, no points, 10 points against Utah Jazz and 5 against the Mavs. He could be a decent piece the Bucks could use shooting-wise coming off that bench there. I just think, the biggest thing with the Bucks right now and Doc Rivers is Doc's got to trust some of these guys. I don't, Green or even a guy like Bieshkamp or, I was looking down, I was trying to figure out the other guy there, Andre Jackson Jr., Ajax. I think he's got to get to the point where he can trust some of these guys because I know not many people like what Adrian Griffin was doing with the Bucks, but he trusted those guys. And I believe that the Bucks starting 5 trusted Bieshkamp, Ajax, and Green to be able to come into the game and give them minutes. And those guys were playing well. I didn't think they were playing bad when Griffin was there. Now, the Bucks defense wasn't great when they were there, but you look at Doc Rivers, he wants defense. Andre Jackson Jr.'s entire game is built on the defensive end of the court. That's what he was at UConn. That's what he's been in the NBA so far as a defender. I would really like to see Andre Jackson Jr. get some playing time out there on the court. He's not going to give you that offensive threat, but like you were talking there before the trade deadline, Davion Mitchell, we talked about Mitchell. You just wanted a dog off the bench who can get after guys. That's Jackson Jr. for you. He's a dog. He can get after you. I mean, you look at his tape there from UConn when he was playing with that run they made to the national title game, that he was a dog on the defensive end. And he could score it too, but he built his game on the defensive end. I'd love to see him get playing time here. I think the Bucks, they don't have the most experienced bench. They don't have the most high-octane scoring bench, but they got guys on this bench that can give you minutes. And I think that's where they have to lean with some of this. I just don't want to see the Bucks get to the point where they overuse a guy like Giannis or they overuse a guy like Brook in a lot of these back-to-back games here, and they start to fall apart. Brook Lopez is getting old. He's getting old. Chris Middleton, we can't keep him out of the court right now. So it'd be nice to have some guys that you can put out there and just give minutes to, and I think they have the pieces for that. Now, I'm definitely looking at the buyout market, and I'm trying to find somebody for the offensive end of the court, because right now what we're seeing from the Bucks is they can play defense. These last couple games that they've had here, I was just looking over the scores there, 84 points to the Hornets. And then before that, I think they only gave up, I was looking the couple games before the Hornets there, 129 to the Timberwolves, 114 to the Suns, 123 in a loss to the Jazz, and then they gave up 117 to the Mavs. Those are all, you look at the Suns, that's a pretty good team right there in the Phoenix Suns. Now, they've struggled this season, but they have good scorers on the team. And the Bucks held them down to 114. There's nothing to shake your head at defensively for the Bucks. I think they're fine defensively. They got to find some offensive sparks somewhere.
No, like you're saying, 114, 118 points sounds like a lot, but today's NBA is, if you're not scoring 120 plus points, you're not winning a lot of basketball games. That's just how it is. And obviously, once you get in the playoffs here, your defense is going to have to tighten up even more. But I mean, the league has gotten to the point where I know they're talking about reworking some of the rules because the offenses are going so insane this season that they're trying to bring a little more defense back in the game. So they're going to try to take some of these rules away with like hand checking and stuff to give defenders a better chance. So, I mean, when you have a league that's actively trying to help the defense out, that just shows you how crazy these offenses have gotten. And like you were saying, I'm just looking at these buyout options. I wouldn't mind a guy like Marcus Morris. I see he's on the buyout market too. Even a guy like Joe Harris. Joe Harris is a decent defender, but he is a great catch and shoot 3-point guy. A perfect guy to have for a guy like Giannis who likes to drive and kick. And I could see him being like taking a role that Pat Connaughton kind of has, because I think Connaughton's kind of on the – I think he's kind of – I don't know. I feel like his best days are behind him, and I would love to see the Bucks kind of maybe bring in another option there. And I think Joe Harris is just kind of a better player as of now compared to what Connaughton is there. But like you're saying, I think they definitely have to go out and add another piece and see where this team can go then.
Yeah, I think you want some veteran presence. You need a veteran presence there coming off the bench. I mean, you got the young guys. If we're putting our stock in Bieshkamp and Ajax because we wouldn't trade them, you have some depth there in those two. You're going to have to get some veteran help and a guy who can shoot. Like you said, Joe Harris wouldn't be. Pat Connaughton is, I don't know why they keep him around. I got to be honest. I would have added him in that trade for Pat Bev and just sent him away and just opened up that roster spot. They brought back Ty Washington. That was good enough for me. He's going to give me minutes that Pat Connaughton is not really producing. And I don't know. Doc Rivers has been trying to get him right over these last few with Damian Lillard being out. He had him out there. And I mean, the other night he had a decent showing scoring. I was trying to pull that game back up there against the Timberwolves. I thought it was. He had a few points there, but I mean, oh, come on. The Wi-Fi starts to go slow on me when I'm trying to talk. He had in that game, he only had 9 points in that one. I believe there was a game, the last couple, that he had 15 or something like that. But it took him, the thing with it is it took him 37 minutes on 4 for 6 shooting to get me 9 points. That's my problem with Pat Connaughton right now. The reason why Pat Connaughton's still here is his ability to shoot the 3-ball, and he can't shoot the 3-ball. That's plain and simple what it is. Pat Connaughton is supposed to be a shooter, and he's not even shooting the basketball. And end of the day, it's the NBA. If you can't shoot, it's not for you. That's just how it is. You got to be able to shoot to play in the league. And right now, when I'm looking at Pat Connaughton, he can't shoot. I don't know why the Bucks keep him around. I really don't. I was campaign seeing him leave. I kind of, wasn't the greatest offensive scorer. But he was young, and he didn't play bad on the defensive end either. No. I thought he was a decent backup point guard. I really wish if you could have traded Pat Connaughton for Pat Bev straight up with that second-round pick, I would have felt a little bit better keeping Pat Bev and having Cameron Payne on the bench yet for that backup point guard spot. He hasn't been playing great offensively, but I don't think, truth be told, he was killing you any way, shape, or form. So, I mean, that's just where I was at on that trade.
Speaking of that trade, help me what were the Sixers doing? I don't understand that if you're the front office of the Sixers, sending a guy to one of the biggest threats in your very own conference, especially because this Bucks team, if they didn't get Pat Bev, everyone else was traded already.
Oh, yeah. They didn't have anything.
Sometime your best trade or your best move at a deadline as a team is to not allow another team that you're going to have to beat at some point to get a guy. Like, whether that's throwing out some false information about guys or trying to drive the price up in a bidding war or something like that. But to me, the Bucks needed a tenacious defensive player who also gave leadership. And that's the exact guy you sent them for next to nothing. Like you said, we got rid of Campaign, but I mean, I think both of us would take Pat Bev over Campaign coming off the bench there.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't even think Campaign's going to be playing on the Sixers now because they're bringing in Kyle Lowry as well. So, to me, it did not make sense to me. I mean, sometimes you see an interconference trade, but usually one team's really bad. So it's like, who cares? Like that sort of thing. But it's like if the Packers would make a trade with the Bears when they were both 10-5, and the Bears needed a pass rusher, and the Packers sent them one. Like that, it just makes no sense to me whatsoever what the Sixers were thinking there.
I mean, truth be told, unless if they didn't really think strongly on Pat Bev, but I heard from Pat Beverly that their owner told him that he wasn't being traded. He wasn't going to be traded, and then all of a sudden he gets shipped out, and it's to the Bucs. That didn't make sense at all. I think Campaign did play. In his first night with the Sixers, I think he went off for like 20 points. I think he had 20 points in his first night with the Sixers. So, I mean, he's getting – you never know. I mean, change of scenery, change of offensive philosophy and stuff like that. Sometimes it helps guys. So maybe that helped Campaign. Only can wish the best for a guy and to see what he can do somewhere else. So Pat Bev coming to the Bucs, I think it's a good add. I think it's going to add a defensive dynamic to the Bucs that they haven't had and a little bit of fire. I hope that him and Damian Lillard get over their little quarrel that they had a couple of years ago. I hope they're good. I hope we don't have any fights going on the bench. I mean, I think they will. I just hope there's no fights going on the bench because, Pat Bev's Pat Bev. I mean, I like him because I think he could start a fight for me if I needed one, though.
I think there will be I could see some disagreements happening with that bench, though, and I think they will happen, but I think sometimes those are good. I think sometimes you need those. And the way Pat Bev gets after some of these guys, like you're looking last night or whenever they played, his first game with the Bucs, he's getting after Brook Lopez in a timeout, and he hasn't even played yet. That was like 5 minutes in the game. Like that's I think that's something this team needs if you're a Bucs, because coaches can only do so much to get to players. When players start getting after other players, that's when you really see some of these guys start to buy in. So, but all in all, I think it's a good trade for the Bucs there.
And I think it's going to pay dividends having a guy like Doc Rivers there at head coach. Because if you had Adrian Griffin trying to control, I mean, you have 12 different personalities right now on this bench if you are the Bucs. Everywhere from Pat Bev now down to Thanasis, you have to deal with a different personality all the way down. Doc Rivers has dealt with superstars. It becomes a problem when you put a lot of superstars on the same team. Like they talked about with the Nets. You had James Harden and Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. There wasn't enough basketballs in the world to be able to give every single one of them able to shoot how many times they wanted to throughout a game. Having a guy like Doc, he's dealt with this. He had that team with Blake Griffin, Chris Paul, DeAndre Jordan. He's had superstars stacking up on a team before. He gets it. He knows how to work with it. So hopefully that is a big boost for the Bucs too. Bucs in action again. I don't know when that next game's at. They play on the 12th. That'll be tomorrow. They'll be taking on the Nuggets. So we'll see how Pat Bev squares off there against the likes of the Nuggets. Should be a good matchup there. But with that, I want to move on and talk about our sponsors here. Your hometown team, Century 21 Gold Key Realty. Call Peggy Soriano to find your dream home, or if you're looking to sell, find them on Facebook at your hometown team, Century 21 Gold Key Realty, or stop in and see them at their location in Marshfield. Also, Pittsville Farm and Home Center. At the store, they serve you anything from hydraulic hoses to red roses. Stop in and see the awesome crew at Pittsville Farm and Home Center in Pittsville. With that, I want to get to our Wisconsin sports questions of the day. So, Rogan, what do you got for me? Wisconsin sports question of the day.
Yeah, Trey. My sports question of the day today is: did you happen to see that Jordan Love was on a podcast with Micah Parsons recently?
I did know Micah Parsons had a podcast. I did.
So, yeah, Jordan Love was just actually on their recent guest. And I think my question is what is your feelings like towards? Would you rather have a guy that is kind of friends with everybody in the league, or a guy that you don't even see in the offseason at all because he's not friends with, you know what I'm saying? Like, would you rather have a guy that's going on other people's podcasts, kind of being friends with them outside of the game? Or would you rather have a guy like Michael Jordan, say? Like, Jordan, after the game, during the season, he wasn't talking to no players from other teams. It was all business. So I think that's my Wisconsin sports question of the day.
I like that Jordan Love gets out there and he gets onto these shows and everything like that. But I think Micah Parsons puts himself in controversy on his podcast because a couple months ago, he was saying props to guys from I think it was, I can't remember who he was talking about, but it was one of their opponents, and he was giving props to guys like that and saying how they did this well and that well and everything else. And you give props to a guy and everything like that, but he was basically saying how this team was so much better and everything like that. I like the business standpoint. I got to be honest. I've always liked the business standpoint. I like Jordan. When he showed up to a court, he was not friends with the guy on the other side. He was all business I think that's the way that sports have changed, though.
Oh, yeah.
When Jordan used to show up in the building, it was a respect thing. It wasn't always that Jordan hated the guy across from him. You were on the opposing team and I'm going to bury you tonight. And then after the game, maybe I'll give you a high five on my way out. But he wasn't that kind of guy to be outspoken like that. It was all business all the time. And I like the all business all the time because that keeps that competitive edge. Now you look at some of these guys now and it can go both ways. I'm not saying it can't go both ways where you can be friendly while also being competitive, but I think it takes away an edge. I really do. I think it takes away an edge. And I don't think players today have that same edge that they did in the past. It honestly baffles me that we still have like brawls and push matches because a lot of these guys outside of the game are all buddy-buddy. And then we get into games here, and it's like, this guy's fighting this guy. I just saw those two outside the stadium giving high fives and everything like that. I'm a business standpoint kind of person. Kobe Bryant was that way. Michael Jordan was that way. And I think that's what made those two guys completely different from any other. I mean, you look back at the past in the NBA, just speaking on NBA terms, and that was how it was. I mean, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, those two hated each other. I mean, that's just the Celtics-Lakers rivalry right there. But I just think that's where sports have changed drastically, is nowadays everybody talks to everybody and everybody seems to be buddy-buddy with everybody. Yeah. And it's like, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of that. I like when Michael Jordan, I can't remember who told him after that game there, they had lost. I think it was in the finals or one of the playoff games. They had lost. And MJ struggled, and he said after the game, the guy told him, good game. That was it. And that's all Michael Jordan needed to piss him off. So the next night he went and just hung 40-plus on him like it was nothing. And that's Michael Jordan. That's what separated Michael Jordan from everybody else. Or you look at the stories of Kobe Bryant. They went to, I believe it was for the Olympic trials. And all those guys, they went out to strip clubs and bars and everything like that at night. And they got back around 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And there's Kobe Bryant. And he's drenched in sweat already from working out already. And these guys are just getting back to the hotel, and it's like 4, 5 o'clock in the morning. And Kobe Bryant's already done working out. He already worked out. Yeah. And I mean, that's the difference of what we're seeing nowadays with guys versus, you talk about, like I talked to Marcus Landry, and he said soft isn't the way you can put it because he doesn't think it's soft. And I don't know if soft's the right word to put it as, but I think that's kind of what the league's getting towards. It's kind of like society, though. Society is getting to that same point where everybody's kind of buddy-buddy. We're a little bit, I don't even know the correct way to put it, but that's just how I'm seeing in sports, too. It's trending that direction. I mean, how many times in the past have you been able to say, I'm going to watch the NFL on Nickelodeon? Never. But they put the NFL on Nickelodeon now because you're not worried about a brawl breaking out on the field. I mean, it's just not how it is anymore. So I don't know. I am definitely baffled by how today's society is compared to the past with sporting-wise, guys being friends and stuff like that. But I love that. What do you think? What do you think on that concept?
I don't know. It's a tough one because I think I've always kind of been more in favor of having a guy that kind of just turns into a killer on the field, like a guy like Brady. Brady was a nice guy outside of the field, but once he was on the field, like that guy did not care who he was going up against. All he wanted to do was win, and he wanted to win at any cost. And I mean, you listen to some of the games where he's mic'd up, and like the stuff he's saying, the trash talk, like it's wild. And you see it like with the Patrick Mahomes, he's that way too. But then in another sense, I think there's also guys. I think Jordan's love's kind of like that, and Joe Burrow too, where they're so calm and there's never a high and there's never a low. And I think there's two types of people on a field that kind of intimidate you. The guys like Michael Jordan and Tom Brady, who kind of trash talk all game long and back it up. But I think sometimes the more intimidating person is those guys that when they're down 14 or they're up 14, you can't tell because they're so just dead focused and there's no emotion. And I think that's kind of how Jordan Love is. You watch his games and he shows some emotion once in a while, but he is cool as a cucumber or whatever that saying is. I think that's right. Is that
cool
what it is?
As a cucumber.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think that's in its own right is intimidating as well. So, like you said, it's just completely – there's not really any rivalries anymore, and I think that's the sucky part. Like, that's what made football great was first play of the game, people are getting chippy. You just don't have that anymore. I mean, you see it with some of these – like Steelers-Ravens will always be like that. You can turn this into a flag football league, and Steelers-Ravens will still be chippy and stuff like that. But it's just not like it used to be.
No, 100%. I mean, you look at the NBA, and they try to sell the Celtics and Lakers off as a rivalry from the past. Nobody cares. You know, but that's a big topic in sports too, is guys just kind of show up for a paycheck. It's not really that winning. I mean, I shouldn't say that. There are guys who show up and they want to win, and that's how it is. I mean, Tom Brady, he was a killer for that. I mean, look at his contracts. He took lesser on his contracts to build a winning team because he wanted to win. That's what Tom Brady did. And I mean, but nowadays you look at some of these guys. Look at Aaron Rodgers. I mean, we watched Aaron Rodgers, how much money he took from the Packers there for that 3-year deal that time. I think it was like 120 mil or something like that. He took that time. I can't remember completely, but that's kind of the thing looking at Aaron Rodgers. He wasn't helping the Packers out be able to win, make a winning team. He just took his money. That's what he wanted, was his money. And I see that a lot with guys nowadays, superstars. It's like, yeah, you know, you got your Supermax deals. You got to get your money that you deserve. But, well, I shouldn't say deserve. I've never been a fan of how big contracts are in sports.
No one deserves that much money.
No.
Especially because we're the ones giving it to them too.
Oh, exactly.
They're being paid because we go to watch them. So
100% agree.
$250 million in 4 years to play basketball is ridiculous. And
Yep.
That's why it irritates me so much when they demand to be traded because they're not being paid $20 million instead of $15. Like, humble yourself a little bit, please. There's people that actually have a real job in this world and make next to nothing, and then you guys get to go play a game for fun, and you're making $40 million a year. So that's 100%. That's a whole podcast worth of.
We could spend a day talking about that, but I 110% agree. I mean, guys complain left and right, and it's like MLB had that a couple of years ago where they were having a lockout because guys couldn't agree on the minimum salary in the MLB. And it's like, tell them all to stay home. Tell all the MLB players to stay home. We have a minor league system full of guys who would give their left nut to be up on the major league roster right now, and will take three quarters less of your contract and do the same exact thing. And you know what? You put an even playing field of AAA guys up at the major league level, nobody would notice. It would be the same. It would just be MLB baseball, just not the stars that we're used to seeing, but nobody would care. That's the biggest thing that has always killed me. The MLB screwed themselves when they made a players association. I get it. You want players to have a voice, but at the end of the day, I can't tell my boss how much I have to get paid. He sets my salary, and if I don't like it, then I go somewhere else. But these guys act like they own the business. They own the owners. That's the kicker, is that the owners let them walk all over them when it's like, we pay your paycheck. We pay you to show up to the baseball field. And yet you are going to complain. That's always been a kicker for me. So definitely interesting. I mean, I like it. I mean, Jordan Love, I heard him on the Dan Patrick show the other day too. I got to be honest, Jordan Love, very good speaker. I did not expect that out of Love, and that's nothing against the guy. I just, sometimes you look at guys and like, I always see like Tom Brady or a guy like Bryce Young or guys like that, and it's like, those guys might be some good speakers. Jordan Love, I didn't know how good of a speaker he was going to be. Very good. I mean, this guy, knowledgeable. You mean, he's a funny guy. You could talk to him all day long. Just a great person all the way around, Jordan Love. So definitely, it was great to see him on Dan Patrick's show. I think they were in Vegas. He is a part of the Old Spice. He's a part of Old Spice now, I believe. He's doing commercials for Old Spice. So he was on with Dan Patrick talking about his Old Spice commercials and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, like you're saying, Love just says all the right things.
Yep.
And that's what you need out of a quarterback and a leader, is a guy that can get in front of a camera and just say all the right things. That's why, I mean, that's the most underrated thing about Mahomes, I think, is his leadership. And he just, all these wide receivers dropping balls, and he never said one bad thing about them. And I think that's kind of how I think that's kind of how Love is. And you really can't ask for any more from your leader on the team.
No, and another guy, CJ Stroud. When you listen to CJ Stroud talk in his press conferences, man, he sounds like he's a 10-year vet. He sounds like he's been in the league for 10 years and has been there, done that. And he's just telling you X's and O's all day long. Like CJ, some of these rookies are actually super impressive to listen to in press conferences and everything like that. So definitely interesting there. My question, do you think Wisconsin, the Badgers, will ever get rid of their academic standard being so high simply because we've seen now the basketball team is, I mean, you look the past 20-some years, they've been in the NCAA tournament, and they've made it a ways in the NCAA tournament. You look at football. In college football, they've made it to, I mean, close to the Final Four there in the past. They ended up in the Rose Bowl game or stuff like that. They can't get over top of Ohio State. But they've always been good. But what's holding them back? They can't get the main guys in there because sometimes you want to believe academic standards. Sometimes it's for other reasons. But end of the day, that might be one thing that's keeping them out. So do you believe that Wisconsin will ever get rid of that high academic standard to try and produce more on the football field, basketball court, whatever it is?
Yeah, no, it's going to be interesting because they've definitely been hurt by the academic standards here, just recruiting some of these high-level athletes. And, let's just be honest, these top-notch athletes, the reason they're top-notch athletes is because they put a lot more time into their sport than they did into school growing up. And there's nothing wrong with that. Props to them. They found something they love to do, and they kind of put a lot of work into that. And I think you see that a lot of those guys, these top-level athletes, aren't the greatest in the academic department. I mean, they're not bad, but the University of Madison has such a high standard that they oftentimes fall well below what is required to come here. But I think we will start to see that slowly kind of trickle away, especially with, I think Fickell coming in is a big deal because we have a new athletic director here, not Chris McIntosh.
Yeah, Chris McIntosh. Yep.
And I think he was kind of saying when he brought Fickell in, a lot of stuff's going to change around here, and we want to start bringing in these high-level guys, and he's the type of guy to do it. And I think that starts with you're going to see some – I feel like you're going to see some burden taken off of the academic weight when it comes to recruiting here because, like you said, I think they've got a good program, good coaches. They just need some better athletes. And a lot of times you're going to have to – I mean, a lot of these better athletes aren't making it up to the standards down here, and I think it's time that we maybe lower those a little bit.
I agree. I mean, you look at universities, look at some of these universities, what brings in a majority of the money there. And you have to look at end of the day, it's sporting, it's athletics. Athletics bringing a lot of money to universities. I know a bunch goes to the athletic department, but you can't tell me that some of it doesn't get distributed out there in the university itself. So definitely got to see. I really do think changes will happen. It sucks to see that academics are kind of taking a tick because of that, but at the same time, you got to be able to accept it both ways. So, I mean, we talked about it. I know of a person who said Melvin Gordon was in the seat on the first day and the last day, but not in between. So, that guys definitely don't actually show up at times too. So definitely interesting there. Speaking of change there from McIntosh, we got to get into that here in a second about some change that may happen here eventually. But with that, I want to get to two of our sponsors before we get there. First, Game Day Supply in Onalaska. Do you have a sports club or team? Are you looking for some custom uniforms or apparel? Check out the awesome crew at Game Day Supply to help your team get the sweetest gear. Find them on Facebook at Game Day Supply or online at GameDaySupply.net. Also, Sport and Spine Clinic in Greenwood. Have you been injured lately, or you or somebody you know been injured, and you're looking for some physical therapy? Check out the awesome. He's a great guy over there in Greenwood. He'll get you right and back on your feet and going in no time. But with that, Rogan, we didn't want to get there We didn't want to get to this point. We didn't. We've been dreading it. We've been dreading getting to this point. We got to talk about it. Badgers, I think we're up to, I've almost counted on a hand here. We got up to 4 losses now in a row for the Badgers, coming off of a loss there against Rutgers. And I'm not even going to call it a loss. I'm going to call it a complete thwomping of the Badgers there at the rack in that one. 78-56 was the final score in that one. Looking at this one, Badgers got their crap beat out of them from the opening tip. Second half, same story all the way through. Terrible game. Let's just go with that. That's all. That just summed it up all into one. In this game here, they had, I believe it was a ridiculous amount of turnovers, 12 turnovers. But if you look at those 12 turnovers, majority in the first half, majority in the first portion of the game there for the Badgers, all the way around. You know, I heard it from multiple people. It didn't even look like the Badgers wanted to be there for this game. Looking at the stat sheet for the Badgers, 19 for 58 from the floor in this one, 5 for 21 from downtown. The only reason why they had 5 for 21 was because Connor Essegian went 3 for 8. Other than that, terrible showing there at the three-point line once again. Terrible showing from the floor shooting the basketball. Free throw line had 22 free throws. They made 13 of them. Just all the way around. To put it into the best terms I can put it in, this is honestly, if Bo Ryan or Dick Bennett looked at this Badger team right now, they wouldn't even know what to say. They will actually know what they wouldn't know what to say. They could probably fix it. We should call Bo Ryan and see if he can fix this mess, because right now it's a mess there in Madison. 4 losses in a row. Rutgers in this game against the Badgers, they shot 30 for 67, 10 for 17. This is one of the worst three-point shooting teams in the Big Ten in the country, and they had 10 threes in this game against the Badgers. Yes, you can blame it on Rutgers got hot. You can blame it on that. Rutgers got hot in this game. Can't do anything about that. Rutgers, one of the worst three-point shooting teams going into this one. I believe I had the stats somewhere on that. I'm seeing if I can pull it up. But one of the worst three-point shooting teams in the country. They were number 350. They were ranked 350th in the country in three-point shooting, and now in that game they made 10. So you can blame it on the threes. I'll give you that. But the Badgers in this game, I thought this was baffling. The 5 starters and their plus-minus ratio in this one, you look at their plus-minus ratio, Tyler Wall, they were -12 with Tyler Wall in the game. With Chucky Hepburn, they were -13. Max Klesmit, -14. Stephen Crowell, -15. And AJ Storr, they were -16 points in this game. That's bad. That's bad all the way around. The Badgers dug themselves a hole early in this game, and they couldn't dig themselves out. And I mean, I don't even want to talk about the Rutgers game. I want to talk about the Badgers as a whole right now. This team went from being the 6th best team in the country, and now they're most likely come Monday not going to be ranked. I mean, I would not rank this Badger team. They have now lost to, I could handle the Nebraska loss at Nebraska. Yes, they blew a 19-point lead, but I could handle that. I could handle the loss to Purdue. Those are 2 decent teams right there, especially Nebraska at home. I mean, Nebraska beat Purdue on their home court. So Nebraska, very good at home. Purdue is very good. Michigan, one of the worst teams in the country. They do get a little bit better when they play at home just because Doug McDaniel does play. But Michigan, terrible team. Rutgers, they've gotten better. I won't say they haven't gotten better. Now that I believe, I'm trying to find his name, I think Williams has been out. I think this is his first 3 games of the year here. This was being his 3rd. So Williams coming back, he had 18 points in this game. So yes, Rutgers has gotten better with the addition of Williams coming back, but this still is not a good team in Rutgers. This is still a bottom feeder team, probably not going to make the NCAA tournament kind of team, barring they have a miracle. I'm looking at Wisconsin right now, and I'm saying nothing looks right. There isn't a leader on this team. And that's truth be told where it lies. There isn't a leader out there. And if we can sit here and we can harp on Stephen Crowell. And I agree, Stephen, you had mentioned a couple weeks ago there, Crowell's soft. I will give you that one. Crowell plays soft. I don't know what it's going to take to get him to play aggressive, because I've seen this guy play aggressive at times there in the post. He has played aggressive in the past. As of late, he's a teddy bear. He's a teddy bear down there in the paint. I don't know what changed with him, but he has been becoming a teddy bear. I thought with size, he gained some mass. I thought he was going to become more dominant. He regressed. He's went backwards. I don't know why, but he's gone backwards. You know the guy it reminds me of? Nate Reavers. Yeah. Nate Reavers came into Madison, good three-point shooter, good in the post, and all of a sudden his junior, senior year, that guy went downhill. The Badgers would not have had a post game if Micah Potter didn't transfer into Wisconsin and make him a little bit better there in the post. I look at Tyler Wahl. Wahl's going to give you what Wahl's going to give you. I mean, 7 points in this one, 10 rebounds, or he had 12 rebounds in total in this game. Wahl, right now for me, the only thing that kills me with Wahl is if he can't score it by the rim, which Rutgers, very long, lanky team, have some size to him, disrupts what Wahl wants to do. He did well against Zach Edey, but I think these guys for Rutgers, I'm not taking anything against Zach Edey because I think he's a dominant big man, but I don't think he's as athletic as these big guys from Rutgers. I think they can move a lot better than what Edey can. Edey's big, but I think he's slower, and I think that kind of is the tick on Edey. So Wahl in this game got disrupted by that athleticism. I just wish he had some kind of mid-range game, some kind of game where he could pull up, a little bit out and just shoot the basketball. I'm not asking for a three-point shot out of Tyler Wahl. I'm asking for a mid-range shot. The mid-range shot for Wisconsin, they can't even hit right now. AJ Storr, I heard them talking before the Michigan game. I can't remember if it was Alfonso or who it was, but they said that AJ Storr is on his way to the league after this year. There is no way. No way AJ Storr. Athletically, AJ Storr is fine. Dribbling the basketball, questionable. Shooting, questionable. I think this guy can create shots. The only thing with AJ Storr, and this is the only thing I had against Johnny Davis too, it takes him a lot of shots to score minimum points. This one, 14 points, 5 for 16 from the field. If you look at his point totals, he'll have 20 points, but it's going to take him 15, 17 shots. The efficiency for Wisconsin is very low right now. They are low efficiency right now on the offensive end of the court. It takes them a lot of shots they're going to have to muster up at least 80 shots to be able to beat some of these teams right now. Because when you watch this team, they can't hit at a high efficient clip. And that's my problem. We talked about Max Klesman early on this year. He was on a heater. And we all said, what's going to happen when Max finally comes back down to earth and gets back to the Max that we know, the more defensive guy who can score it, but he's not as dominant there as what he was showing there for a while. I was hoping it would never happen, but we're seeing it now. Only 3 points in this game. Chucky Hepburn, 0 for 4 from the floor in this one, 2 for 2 from the free throw line. You need in a game like this, I got to have a guard that's going to take over, right? I got to have a guy that's, we talked about it. I think we talked about how far the Badgers could make a run into the tournament, right? And we said the Badgers needed to find that guy. I don't think they have that guy. I really don't. They have a lot of guys, but they don't have that guy. We talked about going onto the bench here. Gilmore, non-factor. I don't even put Gilmore as a factor for me anymore. Looking at Nolan Winter, I think he's a developmental project yet. I think he could develop into a pretty good scorer for the Badgers. I don't know when it's going to come. Connor Essegian in this one, 15 points, but you want to put into shooting percentage there, 5 for 12 from the floor in this one, 3 for 8. And then after the game, the thing that ticks me off the most, Greg Gard comes out to me and he says, well, we're not getting to the rim enough. We're not doing this enough. We're not doing this enough. I get that. At the end of the day, players are the ones who are taking these shots and everything like that. But at the end of the day, I got to have a coach in the building who's going to tell these guys, we talked about 2020-2021 season. Was that when Orlando Tucker, they reportedly said Orlando Tucker released that information about the secret meeting that the Badgers had with Greg Gard, and it was like Brad Davidson and Micah Potter and those guys, and he lost that team? I think that was around that time, basically what happened was that he lost the team. Nobody really thought that he was getting the job done and everything like that. I think that's what's going on right now. I don't think these guys, we just talked about it. This game here, I don't believe anybody was ready to play for this game. I don't think anybody was ready. Now you have a quick turnaround going up against Ohio State. You're going to have two, and Ohio State is hungry for a win too. That's a team that needs another win. They need a statement win. Beating Wisconsin, Wisconsin's giving every team a statement win right now. And I don't think like you said a couple weeks ago, I don't think you can get rid of Greg Gard right this second, but I think I got to see things change right now. Because, honestly, when I watch, I thought about this today, and I watch these Badger teams, and when they're hot, Greg Gard looks like he's an awesome coach. He looks like he's the smartest man in the room, everything like that. He's pushing the right buttons, right? And then this cold spell. Now, you can have a cold spell, but how do you coach in those cold spells? How do you get your team out of that? And for him to just tell me all these things that his guys aren't doing, but that's after the game. You look at that Michigan game, they cut it down to 5 there at one point. How did they do that? They did it going to the basket, scoring at the rim. What did they do for the next 5-10 minutes? Jump shots. They were pulling jump shots left and right. Couldn't make a shot. AJ Storr's throwing up bananas up at the rim there. It's like, I get it. Great record at Madison. But somebody tried telling me that the Big Ten Conference is bad. If it's bad, then Wisconsin's along with them, because this was a team that we were talking about had Sweet 16 aspirations as of a week ago. Now I'm just praying that they could win another game. Now I'm just hoping that they could find a way to win another game. I thought after Nebraska and Purdue that the Badgers would bounce back against the likes of Michigan. And that Michigan game looked like it was a lot closer than what it was. Michigan's a bad team. And Wisconsin played that game like Michigan was the better opponent in those games there. And against Rutgers looked like they were the better team when they played Wisconsin. That you can't have that. And I just, to me, I think Greg Gard is being outcoached right now. I don't think he's pushing the right buttons. And I it's hard because you don't have the likes of Blackwell out there right now. Kamari McGee is still out. So you have 2 of your reserves out for this Rutgers game. I understand that. But when I look at this team right now and I see the scoring output in this game against Rutgers, and I see the offensive efficiency in this game against Rutgers and the turnovers and everything like that, this team is all out of sorts, and it's been out of sorts since Nebraska. And you got to be able to fix that. And we haven't seen the fix. And that's my biggest worry right now. You can't get rid of Greg Gard right now, but this is like you talked about before with McIntosh, change was coming in Madison. He didn't wait long for Paul Chryst. Paul Chryst, he gave him a short little time and said, you better figure it out. He didn't figure it out, right? And now Paul Chryst is gone. They brought in a guy like Luke Fickell. Yeah, people say, well, we all worry about who's going to come in after Greg Gard. I didn't think the Badgers would get a guy like Luke Fickell. I really didn't think they would, but money talks. End of the day, money talks. And I think they could find a guy. I just worry right now this locker room's lost, and I don't know what he's going to do to fix it. He has to fix it. He has to find a way to fix this. I don't know how. I really don't. This team is all out of sorts. I don't know if there is – you could probably answer for me with this one when you talk here, but do you believe that the Badgers were just kind of overperforming for what they really were? And if that's the case, we've had some bad recruiting for a couple years now, because if these guys are all juniors, seniors, right? They're getting towards the end of their career. So we've either had bad recruiting and they were overperforming, or they are just underperforming right now. I don't believe they're as bad as what we're seeing right now, this team. I don't think they're as bad as what they're playing as right now. Right now, they have no leadership and no guidance to get them out of this little skid that they're in right now. And it really worries me for this Badger team.
Yeah, no, like you're saying, when they were ranked 6th, I'm going to be honest, I didn't see them as a 6th best team in the country. Like, I never saw that out of this team. But like I was saying, what was that, 3-4 weeks ago, I started to get worried when the Badgers were getting ranked so high, because I'm like, this happens every year, especially since Gard's been the coach. They get ranked really high like this, and right about now they go into horrible skids. 5, 6, 7 straight losses. I believe last year at one point they had lost like 8 out of 9 games after they had started like 16-2. And now you're seeing the same exact thing again this year. So like I know we got an argument last weekend about you saying like maybe it's time to move on from Gard, and I was kind of disagreeing, but at some point, they call insanity. Insanity is when you do the same thing over and over again and expect different results. And one thing with the Badgers is they get these big wins, but then they go on these slumps that no one else. I mean, you don't see top-ranked teams go lose 4 or 5 straight games like the Badgers do every single year. And what's concerning to me is you go into that Rutgers game, you've lost 3 in a row. You got to get it going back, like get it going again. And to not come in there and at least play a close game, but to lose by 20-something points, like that's concerning. And I think what we've seen is this defense has been struggling all year long, but it's been overshadowed by how well the offense has been playing. And now they're not shooting good. They're in a cold streak right now, and they don't have the defense to win them some games when they can't score. And that's why it's going to be a tough finish for these Badgers, I think. And, yeah, I don't know. Like you said, odds are probably not going to be ranked. Even if they are, it's probably going to be in that 23 to 25 range. Like, it's starting to get – I mean, you look at this record now, they're 16-8. Like, it gets too dicey to finish the end of the season, and you got to be careful. Like, I'm talking careful about making the tournament in general.
Yep. You could be sitting on the outside looking in when it comes to Selection Sunday. That's
because you have 2 games against Illinois left, top 10 ranked team. You got another game against Purdue, and I believe they play – let me look at this.
Indiana and Ohio State yet.
Yeah. I mean –
and Rutgers. You have Rutgers one more time at the Kohl Center.
I think it's too early to be hitting that sort of panic button, but, I mean, if you lose 2 or 3 in a row these next couple, like you're looking at a 16-10, 16-11 team, you better hope you make a pretty good run in the Big Ten tournament, or otherwise you're not even going to make the tournament in general. But I think they will turn around. This team has been too good this year to, I think, fall into a 9-10 game losing streak or something insane like that. I think they'll be okay. I think they'll finish ranked and go into the tournament as I hope. I mean, at this
probably
point,
a 5.
I think now you just hope for a 5, 6, 4, maybe at the most, something like that. But not a good sign, and it's just concerning that we've seen this year after year where they start off and they're so good, and then they go into these horrible, horrible losing droughts. So yeah, it'll be interesting.
The big thing, I talk about division races. I hope they're not playing on the first day of the Big Ten tournament because they're getting close to that point of it too, where they could be playing on the first or second day. You want that double bye. You want to get out of that first couple games there, that mess of the Big Ten tournament, be able to move on. The thing that kicks me is it's exactly like the adjustments that we talk about at halftime, right? You make adjustments. Badgers look good in the first half of the season. Second half of the season, teams make adjustments to the Badgers. The Badgers don't make adjustments back. And that's a big thing that kicks me with them right now. We talk about, like you said, we've had years now where they go on this skid and it's in the second half of the season. And it's like you're supposed to be hitting your stride, right? By the beginning of February, you're either going to make advancements to be the greatest team or the best version of your team, or you're going to regress and you're going to see why you suck. What are we seeing right now out of Wisconsin? Because right now, when you need to be ticking it up, you need to be getting hot, and you need to be fine. This should be a moment right now for the Badgers where they're fine-tooling their skills to get ready for the Big Ten tournament, to get ready for the NCAA tournament. This is that period of the season, not where we're still trying to figure out what is going on at this point. The mistakes that the Badgers are making now are mistakes that you expect in the first game of the year or in the 5th game of the year. Not in game, they're at game 25 now when they play Ohio State. Not in the 25th game of the year. Am I still worried about the first 4 minutes of a game? I'm going to have, I think they had like 7 turnovers plus in the first 4 minutes. I shouldn't have to worry about that right now. Not with the leadership, not with the veteran play that the Badgers have on this team right now. Looking at the turnovers in that game against Rutgers, Chucky Hepburn, 2 turnovers. AJ Storr and Tyler Wall, 2 turnovers apiece. Carter Gilmore, 2 turnovers. He's lucky he made the stat book. He had 1 point. He would have made it with just turnovers in this game. I mean, I don't know. It's baffling. It's baffling right now what we're seeing out of the Badgers. And I am always, and this is going to surprise you because we had the argument about Greg Gard just like a week ago or so, but I was always a guy when everybody bashed on Greg Gard. I used to be the guy to defend him. I used to be the guy to say, yeah, but you know this, or yeah, but you know this. I don't know if I can anymore because I'm seeing this year after year. I'm seeing the fall apart. I'm seeing a team that was destined to do some good things at some point that year fall apart. Now, Greg Gard might be a fine assistant coach, He might be a fine, sitting there on the bench and telling guys what to do. I don't know if he's a head coach. I just don't know that. He's the same as North Carolina. If anybody watches North Carolina basketball with Hubert Davis, I don't think Hubert Davis is a head coach. I really don't. I think North Carolina's got a ton of talent, and I just watched them play. They play stupid, and they lost to Clemson the other night. I mean, North Carolina, one of the top teams in the country, and they play stupid. But the thing with it is that they have the talent to, when they're struggling. But that's a big thing that I wanted to key in on too, was good teams, they're going to go through struggles. I won't say they won't go through struggles. They're going to lose a game here or there. I mean, look at that 2014, 2015 Badger team. They lost to Duke that season. They lost to Rutgers that season. I just had it up before. I was looking at them. They lost to the likes of, let's see here, Maryland. They lost to Maryland that year. They had some losses on that year. I'm not saying that was a perfect team. But after those losses, the bounce back that you see, the Badgers lost that game to Maryland that year. They bounced back against a very good Michigan State team who had Denzel Valentine on that team. Can't remember the big guy, number 10 on that team. They had the likes of one of the, what the heck were their names there? The point guards for Michigan State back in the day. Can't remember their names now. They had the brothers.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to find it here. I'll pull up the stats from that one. Oh, right there. It wasn't the Forbes, was it? Trice. Trice.
Oh, yep.
Brothers of Demetric Trice for the Badgers, but Travis Trice was on that team. They had a Trice before that. That Michigan State team was good, but the Badgers bounced back. That's the big thing that I look at when I look at the differences. I'm not saying that this Badger team is as good as what that 2014, 2015 team was, but what I'm saying is the Big Ten was I got to say it, a lot better back in 2014, 2015. You had good teams in Michigan, Maryland, Michigan State, Ohio State, Wisconsin. Iowa was good. You had good teams across the board. And this Badger team played well. And you had to be good to compete in there. But I'm looking at this Badger team now, and you compare the leagues. This league is lesser, but the Badgers should be one of the better teams in there. When I look at them, I say, this is one of the better teams. Yet, we can't bounce back. We lose a game to Nebraska. You have a tough game against Purdue. I get that loss. But then you play a terrible, and I mean bottom feeder team in Michigan, and you lose that game. And I get it. On the road, the Big Ten's tough. But that's a terrible team. You take Purdue against Michigan at their home court. We talked about the measuring stick, right, with Purdue being the best team in the Big Ten. Wisconsin got beat there. I guarantee you Purdue blows them out. I guarantee you. And now you play Rutgers at the rack. I guarantee you Purdue beats them 9 times out of 10. If Rutgers wins a game there, here and there, I wouldn't be surprised. Rutgers, not a terrible team. I just believe they're young and they are inexperienced and they are not primed and ready to rock and roll. But in this game, they look like it. And that's just my worry. That is my worry with the Badgers, is we're falling in a hole. And this is going to be a continuous hole. I just don't know, end of the day, if Greg Gard's the guy to take him out of the hole. I really don't. I don't know. I don't think he can coach out of a slump. I don't think he can. I think he can when they're hot. I think he looks fantastic. I think he can push the right buttons. When they're cold, I don't think he knows what to do anymore. I really don't. I don't think he knows how to make the adjustments. You can tell me all day long that these guys need to drive to the basket, but set something up that goes towards the basket then. You know what teams are doing to Wisconsin right now? And this has a lot to do with why Steven Crowell isn't scoring a lot. They're doubling down the post. Everybody's doing it now. Why? The Badgers can't shoot. They want the Badgers to shoot the jump shots. They want them to put up 21 threes in a game. If you go, I think Austin and I just did the stat the other night. They were like 18 for 68 in their last 3 games before this Rutgers game shooting the 3 ball. After this one, they're sitting around 20-something for 80 in their last 4 games shooting the 3 ball. I'm going to put a bet on it. Do you want to know what Ohio State's going to do to the Badgers? They're going to double the post. They're going to ask Steven Crowell nicely to pass the ball out, and the Badgers will have to win it at the 3-point line. Plain and simple. That's just how they're going to play the game. I get it, a couple of rough games on the road here, but I believe that Ohio State game's at home. I think they played in Columbus already, so I believe that Ohio State game's coming back to the Kohl Center for that one. Yep, it's going to be at the Kohl Center. If Ohio State comes to Madison and beats the Badgers 5 in a row, I'm going to be honest with you. If Greg Gard still has a job, I can't vouch to have him fired and I can't guarantee it, but I watched after Paul Chryst. I don't remember. Was Paul Chryst midseason or was that more towards the end?
No, that was right in the middle. Right in the middle. The first 6 games, I think.
If they lose that game to Ohio State at the Kohl Center, and it isn't like Ohio State goes off from the 3-point line for 23s, and it's just that kind of game for Ohio State where there's nothing you can really do. The Badgers just play like this. I don't know if Greg Gard has a job in Madison much longer. If it's for the rest of the season, that's going to be it. Barring they make some magical tournament run and they end up going to the Sweet 16 or Elite 8 or whatever it is, barring that, I just don't see it. I really don't. I got a feeling right now you could lose guys off of this roster. You could lose them to the transfer portal. Connor Essegian's one of them. I think Blackwell will stay. AJ Storr is going to stay because he can't. He's going to have to sit out a year if he transfers. I don't believe he's league ready. If he goes to the NBA, I mean, all hats off to him. I just don't believe he's ready. Tyler Wall is going to be done. And Chucky Hepburn, I don't believe, and I don't know if you feel the same way, I don't think Chucky Hepburn listens to Greg Gard. I really don't. I think Chucky Hepburn kind of hears him and sometimes just does what he wants to do. I really do think that sometimes when I watch it, because we see how many times Greg Gard gets kind of ticked off with Chucky Hepburn after something happens. I really don't know sometimes if he has control over the roster, and that's a big guy I key in on. And the way that he's been used this year and not really shooting the basketball, it wouldn't surprise me to see a guy like him walk out the door. And I get the transfer portal is good, but when you lose a lot of guys off your roster, that's a lot of guys to replace too. And I'm really worried about that too. If these guys right now, because back in 2020, 2021, they didn't really have as good of an option to enter the transfer portal and walk out the door. Nowadays, these guys, if they're kind of, because we saw it in this game, they didn't look like they wanted to play against Rutgers. If they're kind of becoming distant, I could see them walking out the door and saying, well, you're going to keep Greg Gard. We want to walk out of here. I think either way, you bring in a new coach, there's probably going to be a roster turnover, unless if it's some big-name guy. Like they say, hey, Tony Bennett, you want to come from Virginia to Wisconsin and come coach Wisconsin? I could see guys staying then. But flip a script, if it's just some average Joe, I could see a lot of guys leaving anyways. But I just think at some point it's just got to happen. I really do. I think Greg Gard's trying to coach like Bo, but I don't think he's anywhere near Bo. And that's where I think the problem lies with the Badgers right now.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. It's getting dicey for Gard there for sure, and I think he's got to be careful. But it's going to be interesting here, and we'll see what happens. But hopefully, he can get this figured out.
I'm hoping so. I really hope so because I love me some Badger basketball, but right now I can't even bar to watch. We were talking about this before the game, before the shoot here, but I was actually doing a side job this weekend. I had zero service inside this shed, so I wasn't able to listen to the game, watch the game, check up on the score, and we were working. Finally, I was like, I'll run outside quick. I'll check the score of the game. It was around lunchtime. I was like, I'll go check it. So went out there. Badgers were down by like 20 with 2 to go. I was like, what did I miss? I expect to turn on my phone and if anything be maybe a 4-point game or the Badgers were winning and I could be excited again. And I was like, what am I watching? What is this? What is this? And then I watched the replay of the game. I couldn't even believe I made myself do it. I watched the replay of the game and just disastrous. So just ridiculous. But with that, I mean, anything else we got to add for the day here?
There we go. My bad. Said nothing much, Trey. Just hopefully the Badgers can get this figured out and we can get back on some winning notes here.
We all forget we mute the mic every once in a while. We start talking and it's like, you're not. We got to wave and get the other guy's attention. So, yeah, that's about all we got. We're hoping the Badgers can get back to winning ways. We're going to be talking about that there tomorrow, previewing their game against Ohio State. Super Bowl, we're going to talk about Super Bowl tomorrow. We had a lot to get into today with the Badgers and everything like that, so we're just going to save the Super Bowl talk for tomorrow. But with that, this has been Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. Thank you guys for listening. We'll catch you guys back here tomorrow, but until then, deuces.